The explosions shook the medical bay so hard that Lieutenant Daniel Carter nearly dropped the plasma injector. He steadied himself against the wall and kept working on the wounded soldier in front of him. The man's leg was burned badly, and there was blood everywhere. Daniel had seen worse in the 2 years since the war started, but it never got easier. Another hit on the port side, someone shouted from the corridor. Hull breach on deck 7. Daniel finished sealing the wound and moved to the next patient. The medical bay was full of injured crew members from the horizon. Some were screaming. Others lay too quiet. He had 3 other medics helping him, but it was not enough. It was never enough. The battle had been going on for 6 hours. The human fleet was attacking Kepler Station, a Vraxian supply base deep in contested space. Intelligence said the station was lightly defended. Intelligence was wrong. The Vraxians had 3 warships waiting, and they were tearing the human fleet apart. "Carter, I need you up here," his commanding officer said through the comm system. Captain Helen Brooks sounded tired. "We have a situation on the observation deck." Daniel looked at the wounded men and women filling his bay. "I have patience, Captain." "Now, Lieutenant, that is an order." Daniel handed his tools to another medic and ran through the corridors. The ship shook again, and he had to grab a railing to keep from falling. Emergency lights flashed red. The air smelled like smoke and burnt metal. He reached the observation deck and found Captain Brooks staring at the main view screen. The battle was still raging outside. Human ships fired missiles at the Vraxian warships. The station was breaking apart, huge pieces of metal spinning off into space. "Look at that," Brooks said, pointing at the screen. A small object floated among the debris. "It's a Vraxian escape pod. Single occupant according to our scans." Daniel studied the pod. It was damaged, drifting without power. "Are we picking them up?" "No," Brooks said flatly. "Command says no prisoners. We do not have the resources to guard them or feed them. And after what they did to Colony 7, I am not in the mood for mercy." Daniel remembered Colony 7. 20,000 civilians dead. He had lost his younger sister there. Lisa had been 19 years old, studying to be a teacher. The Vraxians had bombed the settlement from orbit. No warning. No survivors. "Understood, Captain," Daniel said. Brooks looked at him carefully. "I know that tone. You are thinking something. Say it. It is just one person. We could lock them in a holding cell. And when we get back to base, then what? We execute them? Put them on trial? Either way, it is a waste of time and supplies." Brooks shook her head. "Destroy the pod and get back to your patients." Daniel saluted and left the observation deck. He walked slowly back toward the medical bay. But something made him stop. He could not explain it. Maybe it was thinking about Lisa. Maybe it was being tired of death. He did not know. He changed direction and headed for the cargo bay instead. The cargo bay was nearly empty. Most of the supplies had been used up during the long battle. Daniel sat down at the control terminal and accessed the external sensors. He found the escape pod quickly. It was still drifting, getting farther away from the horizon. The scan showed one life sign inside. But something was strange. The biosignature was smaller than a normal Vraxian adult. Much smaller. Daniel's hands moved over the controls before he could think about what he was doing. He activated the cargo bay's magnetic grapple and locked onto the pod. The metal arm extended into space, grabbed the pod, and pulled it toward the ship. "What are you doing?" a voice said behind him. Daniel turned and saw Corporal Jake Manning standing in the doorway. Manning was security, and he looked angry. "Following orders," Daniel lied. "Captain wants the pod brought in for inspection." "Idid. That is not what I heard," Manning said. He reached for his comm unit. "Wait," Daniel said. "Just wait. Look at the scan. That is not an adult Vraxian in there." Manning looked at the screen. His expression changed from anger to confusion. "A kid? Maybe. I do not know for sure. But the biosignature is too small for an adult." The pod was in the cargo bay now. Daniel closed the outer door and activated the atmosphere controls. Air filled the bay with a hissing sound. Manning still had his hand on his comm unit. "Captain is going to have your head for this." Probably," Daniel agreed. He walked to the pod and examined it. The metal was scorched black from weapon fire. There was a crack along one side. He found the emergency release and pulled it. The pod's door opened with a grinding noise. Inside was a child. She was small, maybe the size of a human 7-year-old. Her skin was covered in fine blue scales that shimmered in the cargo bay lights. She had large eyes, dark like the night sky. She was bleeding from a cut on her shoulder, and her breathing was fast and shallow. When she saw Daniel, she screamed. The sound was high and terrified. She pressed herself against the back of the pod, trying to get away from him. Her small hands grabbed at something around her neck. It was a pendant with strange symbols carved into it. "It is okay," Daniel said softly. He held up his hands to show he was not holding a weapon. "I am not going to hurt you. I am not going to hurt you." The child did not understand English. She kept screaming and crying. Manning took a step back, his hand still on his comm unit. Daniel moved slowly. He had medical supplies in the cargo bay for emergencies. He grabbed a scanner and checked the child's injuries. The shoulder wound was deep but not life-threatening. She also had burns on her arms and a fractured rib. "Call this in," Manning said. "We need to tell the captain." "In a minute," Daniel said. He was already working on the child's shoulder. He used a plasma seal to close the wound. The child whimpered, but stopped screaming. She watched him with those huge dark eyes. Daniel worked carefully. Vraxian physiology was different from human, but not too different. The basic principles were the same. Stop the bleeding. Clean the wound. Support the breathing. The child's breathing began to slow. She was still scared, but she seemed to understand that Daniel was helping her. She whispered something in her own language. Daniel did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was calling for her mother. "Kaelira," the child whispered, touching her pendant. "Kaelira, your mother?" Daniel asked gently. The child did not answer. She just held the pendant tight. Manning's comm unit beeped. It was Captain Brooks. "Manning, report. What is happening in the cargo bay?" Manning looked at Daniel. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Manning pressed the button. "We have a situation, Captain. You need to come down here." Captain Brooks arrived 5 minutes later with 2 armed guards. She looked at the pod, then at the child, then at Daniel. Her face went red with anger. "I gave you a direct order, Lieutenant." "Yes, Captain. I told you to destroy that pod." "Yes, Captain." Brooks stared at the child. The little Vraxian was sitting on the floor now, still holding her pendant. Her shoulder was bandaged. She looked exhausted. "She is a child," Daniel said quietly. "Just a child. She is a Vraxian," Brooks snapped. "The enemy. The same people who killed your sister. The same people who have killed millions of us." "I know what they did," Daniel said. His voice was calm but firm. "I know what they are. But she is a child. She did not choose this war. She did not kill anyone. And I took an oath to preserve life, not end it." Brooks closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she looked tired. "You disobeyed a direct order during combat. That is a court-martial offense." "Yes, Captain." "Lock him in his quarters," Brooks told the guards. She looked at the child again. "Take the Vraxian to holding cell 3. Command will decide what to do with her." The guards took Daniel by the arms. As they led him away, he looked back at the child. She was watching him leave. She did not understand what was happening, but she looked scared again. Daniel wanted to tell her it would be okay. He wanted to promise that no one would hurt her, but he could not make that promise. He did not know what would happen to her. The guards locked him in his quarters. Daniel sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. He had probably just destroyed his career. He might face a court-martial. He might be sent to a military prison, but when he closed his eyes, he saw the child's face. He saw her holding that pendant and crying for her mother. And he knew he had made the right choice. Even if no one else ever understood, he had made the right choice. Outside his window, the stars were cold and distant. The battle was over. The human fleet had won. Kepler Station was destroyed. But somewhere out there, the war was still raging. And it was getting worse every day. 6 months had passed. And Daniel Carter was no longer a lieutenant. He was Private Carter now. Assigned to the supply depot on Titan Outpost, the small moon base orbited Saturn, far from the fighting. It was a punishment posting, and everyone knew it. The war had changed in those 6 months. Changed badly. The Vraxian coalition had revealed their true strength. What humanity thought was their main fleet turned out to be just a small part of their forces. They had been holding back, testing human defenses, learning human tactics. Now they were done playing. Colony after colony fell. Earth's outer settlements were wiped out completely. The Vraxians were not interested in conquering territory. They wanted humans gone. Extinct. Erased from the galaxy. Daniel worked in the depot's inventory section, counting supply crates and filing reports. It was boring work, but he preferred it to the fighting. At least here, no one was dying in front of him. At least here, he did not have to choose who to save and who to let die. Most nights, he could not sleep. He kept seeing the child's face. Those big, dark eyes. That pendant she held so tight. He had asked about her many times, but no one would tell him anything. Military intelligence had taken her away after the battle. After that, she disappeared into the system. He wondered if she was still alive. He hoped she was. The common room was almost empty when Daniel entered. A few other soldiers sat around, watching the news feeds on the big screen. The news was always bad these days. Another colony gone, someone said. New Rotterdam. 3 billion people. Daniel sat down and watched the footage. Vraxian warships in orbit, cities burning, refugee ships trying to escape and being shot down. He wanted to look away, but he could not. They are not stopping, another soldier said. They are going to kill us all. Earth's government is trying to negotiate, someone else replied. But the Vraxians will not even talk to us anymore. The screen changed to show the Galactic Council chambers. Daniel had learned about the Council during his military training. It was an alliance of dozens of alien species. The main governing body for most of the galaxy. Humanity had asked for membership many times, but the answer was always no. The Council voted yesterday, the news anchor said. They have officially recognized the Vraxian coalition's right to pursue military action against humanity. The vote was 73 in favor, 12 against, and 15 abstentions. Daniel felt sick. The galaxy was watching humanity die, and they had given it their approval. We attacked first, the anchor continued. That is what the Vraxians claim. They say humanity struck without provocation, that we are too violent and dangerous to exist alongside other species. The Council believes them. Do we have any allies at all? Someone asked. No, another soldier replied. We are alone. Daniel stood up and left the common room. He could not watch anymore. He walked through the corridors of the depot, heading nowhere in particular. The base was small. Just 300 people. Most of them were support staff like him. The real fighting was happening far away. The alarm caught him by surprise. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. The warning siren was loud and urgent. Daniel's first thought was an attack, but that made no sense. Titan Outpost was worthless strategically. The Vraxians would not waste resources on it. All personnel to the briefing room, a voice announced over the speakers. Repeat. All personnel to the briefing room immediately. Daniel ran. Everyone else was running too. They crowded into the small briefing room, confused and scared. The base commander, Major Linda Hayes, stood at the front. She looked shaken. Quiet down, Hayes said. I have just received an emergency transmission. It came directly from the Vraxian First Fleet flagship. The room went silent. A Vraxian commander has made a public broadcast to all human forces. She is claiming protection over one of our personnel under an ancient law called Talkesh. Daniel felt a strange chill run down his spine. The Vraxian commander's name is Kaelira, Hayes continued. She is demanding that we turn over the person she is claiming. If we do not comply within 48 hours, she says she will consider her offer void. Someone raised their hand. What does she want with one of us? Is it a trap? Intelligence is analyzing it now, Hayes said. But the Talkesh law is real. It is older than the Vraxian coalition itself. When someone saves a direct blood relative's life, a sacred debt is created. The person who was saved, or their family, can claim the savior under absolute protection. Daniel's heart was pounding. He knew what was coming before Hayes said it. The person Kaelira is claiming is Private Daniel Carter. Every head in the room turned to look at him. Daniel could not speak. He could not move. Hayes gestured for him to come forward. Carter, do you know who Kaelira is? No, ma'am, Daniel said quietly. Then he thought about it. Wait. The child. The one I saved. She said that name. Kaelira. The intelligence briefing confirms it, Hayes said. The child you rescued was Kaelira's daughter. You saved the daughter of one of the Vraxian coalition's highest-ranking fleet commanders. The room erupted in noise. Everyone was talking at once. Daniel stood there, trying to process what he was hearing. Hayes held up her hand for quiet. There is more. Kaelira has offered to testify before the Galactic Council. She says she has evidence that will prove humanity did not attack first. She claims the war started under false pretenses. And she wants Carter in exchange? Someone asked. Not in exchange, Hayes corrected. She is claiming him under Talkesh. It means she is offering him her protection. If humanity refuses to turn him over, it would be seen as a grave insult. But if we comply, she has promised to speak on humanity's behalf. Daniel's mind was racing. The child's mother, the commander who had destroyed Kepler Station, she was the one reaching out. Is it a trick? Someone demanded. Why would a Vraxian commander help us? We do not know, Hayes admitted. Earth's government is debating it right now. They sent me here to talk to Carter first. Hayes looked at Daniel. Carter, this is your choice. No one can force you to go. But you need to understand what this means. If Kaelira is telling the truth, if she really has evidence, this might be humanity's only chance to stop the extermination. Daniel thought about Lisa, his sister. He thought about the billions who had already died. He thought about the colonies still falling. The people still dying while the galaxy watched and did nothing. I will go, he said. You do not have to decide right now, Hayes said. Take some time to think about it. I do not need time, Daniel said. That child. Her name was Sira. I saved her because it was the right thing to do. If her mother wants to return the favor, if there is even a chance she can stop this war, then I have to try. Hayes studied him for a long moment. You are braver than most, Carter. Or maybe just crazier. Probably both, ma'am. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Daniel was briefed by military intelligence about Vraxian culture and the Talkesh law. He learned that breaking this law meant complete exile from the coalition. No Vraxian would ever speak to the lawbreaker again. Their family would be shamed. It was the worst punishment their society had. That meant Kaelira was risking everything to claim him. Earth's government finally made their decision. They would allow Daniel to go. They were desperate enough to try anything. On the morning of the third day, Daniel boarded a small shuttle. He was alone, except for the pilot, an older man who did not say much. The shuttle was unarmed and unarmored. It broadcast a continuous signal identifying itself as a diplomatic vessel. As they left Titan Outpost behind, Daniel looked out the window at Saturn's rings. They were beautiful, glowing in the distant sunlight. He wondered if he would ever see them again. The trip took 6 hours. The Vraxian First Fleet was waiting at a neutral zone, far from any human territory. Daniel could see the ships on the scanner. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each one was bigger than any human vessel. There she is, the pilot said, pointing at the largest ship on the scanner. The Crimson Dawn, Kael'Ira's flagship. The ship was massive. It looked like a blade made of dark metal, covered in weapon ports. Daniel had seen Vraxian warships in battle before, but never this close. Never when he was heading right toward one. The pilot received a transmission. They are giving us approach clearance. Bay 7. 17. Daniel took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. He pressed them against his knees to make them stop. "You okay back there?" the pilot asked. "No," Daniel said honestly. "But I am doing it anyway." The pilot laughed. "That is the definition of courage, son." The shuttle entered the Crimson Dawn's docking bay. The doors closed behind them with a heavy thud. Through the window, Daniel could see Vraxian soldiers lining up. They all carried weapons. They all looked hostile. "This is as far as I go," the pilot said. "Good luck, Carter." Daniel stood up and walked to the shuttle door. He had no weapon, no armor, just his uniform and his medical kit, which he brought out of habit. The door opened. Daniel stepped out onto an alien ship, surrounded by enemies, with nothing but hope that one act of kindness 6 months ago would be enough to change the fate of his entire species. The Vraxian soldiers parted. A figure walked through them, tall and imposing. She wore a commander's armor, dark blue with silver markings. Her scales shimmered with colors that Daniel guessed meant rank or authority. She stopped in front of him and spoke. Her voice was deep and strong. "Daniel Carter, Commander Kael'Ira," he replied. She studied him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she placed her hand over her heart in what looked like a salute. "You saved my daughter's life. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But I will try. I claim you under Talkish. You are under my protection now. No one will harm you while I live." Daniel did not know what to say. He just nodded. "Come," Kael'Ira said. "There is someone who wants to see you." She led him through the ship. The corridors were huge, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were smooth and covered in lights that shifted colors. Other Vraxians stared at Daniel as he passed. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. They stopped at a door. Kael'Ira opened it and gestured for Daniel to enter. The room was smaller than the corridors, more comfortable. And standing in the middle of it was the child. Sira. She looked healthy now. The burns were healed. The shoulder wound was gone. She was wearing clean clothes and holding that same pendant around her neck. When she saw Daniel, her face lit up with joy. She ran to him and hugged his legs, speaking rapidly in her own language. "She remembers you," Kael'Ira said quietly. "She talks about you often. She calls you Shalketh. It means the kind one." Daniel knelt down so he was at Sira's eye level. The child touched his face gently, as if making sure he was real. "Hello, Sira," Daniel said softly. Kael'Ira's expression changed. For the first time, she looked sad. "I need to tell you the truth about this war, Daniel Carter. And when I do, you will understand why I had to bring you here, why I have to speak before the council, why I am risking everything." She paused, looking at her daughter. The Vraxians did not attack in self-defense. Humanity did not fire first. It was all a lie, and I have proof. Kael'Ira's private quarters were larger than Daniel expected. The walls showed images of distant planets, probably places she had visited during her military career. Sarah sat next to Daniel on a low bench, still holding his hand like she was afraid he might disappear. 2 years ago, a Vraxian science vessel detected unusual energy readings near your Colony 7, Kael'Ira began. She stood by the window, looking out at the stars. The vessel sent a standard greeting. Your colony responded peacefully. They even invited our scientists to land and share data. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Colony 7, where Lisa died. Our science team went down to the surface. They met with your people. According to their reports, the humans were friendly and curious. They showed our scientists around the colony. They shared a meal together. Kael'Ira's voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the pain in it. Then something happened. An explosion destroyed the science vessel in orbit. All 17 crew members died instantly. "I do not understand," Daniel said. "The Vraxians bombed Colony 7 from orbit. Everyone knows that." "That is what everyone was told," Kaelira said. She turned to face him. But it was not true. Our science vessel was destroyed by a Vraxian weapon. The explosion was meant to look like human aggression. Within hours, footage was broadcast across the Coalition. It showed human fighters attacking the vessel. But the footage was fabricated. Daniel stared at her. "Why would your own people do that?" "Because there is a faction within the Coalition that fears humanity," Kaelira said. "Your species appeared in the galaxy only 50 years ago. In that time, you have spread to dozens of worlds. Your technology advances faster than any other species we have seen. You adapt, you improvise, you never give up." She walked to a console and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. Charts, graphs, analysis reports. "The faction's leaders believe humanity will eventually surpass us. They think you will become a threat to Vraxian dominance. So they decided to eliminate you before that could happen. By starting a war," Daniel said quietly. "By starting a war and making it look like humanity's fault," Kaelira confirmed. "After our science vessel was destroyed, the faction sent warships to Colony 7. They bombarded it from orbit. 20,000 of your people died. Then they blamed it on internal human conflict, claimed you were destroying your own colonies and trying to frame us." Daniel closed his eyes. Lisa had been down there. She died because of a lie. "The Council believed the fabricated evidence," Kaelira continued. "Why would they not? The Vraxian Coalition is old and respected. Humanity was new and unknown. When we claimed you had attacked us, they accepted it as truth." "How did you find out?" Daniel asked. "I started to suspect during the battle at Kepler Station," Kaelira said. Her voice became softer. "My ship was destroyed in the fighting. I managed to evacuate most of my crew. But the enemy fire was too heavy. I had to make a choice. Save the remaining crew, or go back for Syrah's escape pod." She looked at her daughter. Syrah was watching her mother with those big dark eyes. "I chose the crew. It was the military decision. The logical one. Syrah's pod was badly damaged. I thought she could not have survived." Kaelira's voice broke slightly. "I left her behind. I abandoned my own child, because I was a good soldier, following orders. But she did survive," Daniel said. "Because of you," Kaelira said. "When I returned to the fleet, I reported Syrah as killed in action. I mourned her. Then, 3 days later, I received a message through intelligence channels. They had found a Vraxian child on a human ship. They wanted to know if I could identify her." Daniel remembered that day. The guards coming to take Syrah away, her scared face as they led her to the transport. "I could not believe it," Kaelira said. "I accessed the security footage from your ship. I watched you pull her pod aboard. I watched you treat her injuries, even though your captain ordered you to destroy the pod. I watched you protect my daughter when you had every reason to let her die." "She was just a child," Daniel said. "She was the child of your enemy," Kaelira countered. "The enemy who had killed your sister, destroyed your colonies, murdered billions of your people. You should have wanted revenge. Anyone would have understood." "Revenge does not bring back the dead," Daniel said. "It just makes more orphans." Kaelira was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "That is when I knew. If a human could show such mercy in the middle of a war, if one of your soldiers could save the child of the woman who destroyed Kepler Station, then everything I had been told about humanity was wrong." She deactivated the holographic display and brought up new images. These were communications logs, sensor data, classified military reports. I started investigating. I used my rank to access restricted files. I found the evidence of the conspiracy, the fabricated attack footage, the communications between the faction leaders, the real sensor logs from the science vessel showing it was destroyed by our own weapons. They will kill you for this, Daniel said. They will try, Kael-Ira agreed. I already have enemies in the fleet. Admiral Zektar leads the faction. He is powerful and influential. Half the coalition follows him. When they learn I am speaking against them, they will call me a traitor. Then why are you doing it? Kael-Ira looked at her daughter. Because Sira asked me a question. She asked why the kind human saved her when we were supposed to be enemies. I tried to explain about the war, about how humans are dangerous. She looked at me with those eyes and said, "But he was not dangerous. He was gentle." She knelt down next to Sira and put her hand on the child's head. How could I look at my daughter and tell her that mercy is weakness? How could I teach her that kindness deserves death? If I did that, then we truly would be monsters. Daniel felt something in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the weight of responsibility. The Galactic Council meets in 5 days, Kael-Ira said. I am taking you there. I will present my evidence before all the assembled species. I will tell them the truth about the war. And I will show them what you did for Sarah. I will prove that humanity deserves a chance. What if they do not believe you? Daniel asked. Then we will both die, Kael-Ira said simply. The faction will make sure of it. But at least we will die knowing we tried. Sira tugged on Daniel's sleeve. She held up a piece of paper. It was a drawing, made with colored markers. It showed a human and a Vraxian standing together, both smiling. Around them were stars. She draws you often, Kael-Ira said. She wants to visit Earth someday. See the oceans and the forests. Meet other humans. Daniel looked at the drawing. It was simple and childish, but it showed something important. It showed a future where humans and Vraxians were not enemies, where children from both species could be friends. I will help you, Daniel said. Whatever you need. I need you to survive, Kael-Ira said. The faction will try to kill you before we reach the council. They cannot let you testify. A human showing mercy contradicts everything they have claimed about your species. A warning alarm suddenly echoed through the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. Kael-Ira's expression changed instantly from thoughtful to alert. She activated her comm unit. Report, she demanded. Commander, 3 vessels have broken formation. A voice replied. They are moving to intercept us. Admiral Zektar is leading them. Battle stations. Kael-Ira ordered. All ships. Defensive formation. Protect the Crimson Dawn. At all costs. She looked at Daniel. It starts now. They know you are here. They are going to try to stop us. What can I do? Daniel asked. Stay alive, Kael-Ira said, and stay with Sira. I need to command my ship. She ran from the room, her armor making sharp sounds against the metal floor. Daniel was left alone with Sira. The child looked frightened. She understood something bad was happening. Daniel knelt down and took her small hands in his. It is okay, he said softly, even though she probably did not understand. I will keep you safe. Sarah seemed to understand the tone, if not the words. She hugged him tight. The ship shook. The battle had begun. Daniel picked up Sira and moved to the corner of the room, away from the window. He held her close and whispered comforting sounds. Outside, he could hear the crew running through corridors, shouting orders, preparing for combat. The ship shook again, harder this time. Something exploded nearby. The lights flickered. Daniel thought about everything Kael-Ira had told him. The conspiracy, the lies, the genocide, built on fabricated evidence. All those people dead because some aliens were afraid of human potential. He thought about Lisa. She died because of those lies. Billions died because of those lies. But he also thought about Sira. One child who survived because of mercy. One mother who chose truth over loyalty. One chance to end the killing. The ship rocked violently. Alarms blared. Sira whimpered and buried her face against Daniel's chest. I know you are scared, Daniel said to her. I am scared too. But your mother is brave. She is fighting for something important. She is fighting for peace. He looked at Sarah's drawing, now fallen on the floor. The human and the Vraxian standing together under the stars. Maybe it was naive. Maybe it was impossible. But Daniel had to believe it could be real. He had saved one child. That child's mother was trying to save humanity. One small act of kindness. Rippling outward like waves in a pond, the ship shook again. Daniel held Sarah tighter and waited. Outside, the battle raged. Ships fought and died, weapons fired across the darkness of space. But in this small room, a human and a Vraxian child held on to each other and hoped for a better future. It was not much. But sometimes, hope is all you need to keep fighting. The explosions were getting closer. Daniel held Sarah in the corner of Kale-Ira's quarters while the crimson dawn shook with each impact. The child was crying now, her small body trembling. Daniel whispered reassuring words, even though he knew she could not understand them. The door slid open. A Vraxian officer stood there, breathing hard. His armor was scorched, and blue blood stained his shoulder. "Human," the officer said in rough English. "Commander needs you. Medical bay. Now." Daniel stood up, still holding Sarah. "I am a medic. Take me there." They ran through the corridors. The ship was in chaos. Crew members rushed past, carrying weapons and repair equipment. Smoke filled some sections. Emergency lights flashed red and white. The floor shook continuously as weapons fire hit the shields. The medical bay was worse than Daniel's bay on the horizon had ever been. Wounded Vraxians lay everywhere. The medical staff was overwhelmed. They were trying to treat too many patients with too few hands. A Vraxian medic saw Daniel and shouted something in her language. She pointed at the wounded, then at him. "I do not understand," Daniel said. The medic grabbed a translation device from her belt. The words came out awkward but clear. "You are human medic, yes? Help us. Too many wounded." Daniel looked around. Vraxians bleeding, dying, suffering. 6 months ago. These were his enemies. Now, they needed his help. He did not hesitate. He set Sarah down in a safe corner and told her to stay there. Then he moved to the nearest wounded soldier. The soldier had a massive wound across his chest. The Vraxian medics had tried to seal it, but they were using the wrong technique. Daniel could see that immediately. Vraxian physiology was different, but the basic principles of trauma care were universal. "Let me try," Daniel said. He took the plasma sealer and adjusted its settings. The Vraxian medics watched skeptically. Daniel worked quickly, using a technique he learned for treating deep tissue damage. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. The Vraxian medic's eyes widened. She said something rapid in her language. Other medics gathered around to watch. For the next hour, Daniel worked alongside the Vraxian medical team. He showed them human techniques that worked on their physiology. They showed him Vraxian methods that were more effective than human ones. Together, they saved lives. Sarah stayed in her corner, watching quietly. Sometimes, she helped by bringing supplies when Daniel pointed at them. The Vraxian medics seemed surprised that she trusted the humans so completely. The ship shook violently. Part of the ceiling collapsed. Daniel threw himself over a wounded soldier to protect him from the falling debris. A piece of metal hit his shoulder, and pain shot through his arm. A Vraxian medic pulled him up. "You are injured." "I am fine," Daniel said. "Keep working," but the medic insisted. She treated his shoulder while he continued working one-handed. She muttered something that the translator rendered as, "Stubborn human." The comm system crackled. Kale-Ira's voice came through. "This is Commander Kale-Ira to all crew. We have taken severe damage to the port side. Life support is failing in sections 12 through 18. Damage control teams are spread too thin. I need volunteers." Daniel looked up. Section 12 was close to the medical bay. If life support failed there, the air would vent into space. Everyone in that section would die. "I can help," Daniel said to the Vraxian medic. She looked at him like he was crazy. "You are not trained for damage control. You will die." "I am a combat medic," Daniel said. I have training in field repairs. And I am small enough to fit in spaces your people cannot reach. The medic hesitated, then nodded. She spoke into her comm unit. A moment later, a damage control team arrived. Their leader, a huge Vraxian covered in burns, looked at Daniel with doubt. Commander says you volunteered, he said through the translator. Can you really help? Only one way to find out, Daniel replied. They ran to Section 12. The damage was catastrophic. A weapon hit had torn through the hull. The emergency seals were trying to close, but they were failing. Air was already venting into space. We need to reach the backup control panel, the team leader said. It is behind that conduit, too small for us to fit. Daniel looked at the gap. It was narrow, barely wide enough for a human, and it was filled with sparking electrical systems and sharp metal edges. I can do it, Daniel said. You will be cut, burned, maybe electrocuted. Better than letting everyone in this section die, Daniel said. He squeezed into the conduit. The metal scraped his sides. Sparks burned his hands. He pushed forward, ignoring the pain. Behind him, he heard the Vraxian team shouting encouragement. The backup control panel was just ahead. Daniel reached it and started working. Human ships had similar systems. The controls were different, but the logic was the same. Reroute power here. Bypass the damaged circuit there. Activate emergency seals manually. His fingers flew over the alien controls. Sweat dripped into his eyes. The metal around him grew hot enough to burn. Then, with a loud hiss, the emergency seals engaged. The air stopped venting. The section was saved. Daniel crawled back out of the conduit. His uniform was torn, his hands were bleeding, but he was smiling. The Vraxian damage control team stared at him. Then their leader did something unexpected. He placed his hand over his heart in a salute. You have honor, human, he said. You risked yourself for our people. We are all just trying to survive, Daniel replied. They returned to the medical bay. Sira ran to Daniel and hugged him, not caring about the blood and dirt. The Vraxian medics cleaned his wounds while he protested that others needed help more. The battle continued for another 3 hours. By the time it ended, the Crimson Dawn was badly damaged but still flying. The 3 ships led by Admiral Zektar had broken off their attack. Kael Ira entered the medical bay. She looked exhausted. Her armor was scorched, and she had a cut above her eye. She found Daniel treating a wounded officer. You saved 17 crew members in Section 12, she said. The damage control team says you went into spaces they could not reach. I did what was needed, Daniel said. You also saved 23 wounded in the medical bay. The medics say you taught them new techniques. Daniel shrugged. We helped each other. Kael Ira studied him for a long moment. Do you know what you have done? The crew sees you as a hero now. A human who risked his life for Vraxians. Word is spreading through the fleet. People are starting to question what they were told about humanity. I just did not want people to die, Daniel said. That is exactly the point, Kael Ira said softly. Come, there is someone who wants to speak with you. She led him to the bridge. The view screen showed Admiral Zektar's ship, holding position a safe distance away. The Admiral himself appeared on screen. He was old, with scales darkened by age and battle. His eyes were hard and calculating. Human, Zektar said. The word sounded like an insult. I am told you saved my son today. Daniel was confused. Your son? A younger Vraxian officer stepped forward on the bridge. His uniform marked him as a lieutenant. He had been one of the wounded Daniel treated in the medical bay. Lieutenant Vorek, the young officer said. I serve on the Crimson Dawn under Commander Kael Ira. You saved my life when the ceiling collapsed. You protected me with your own body. Admiral Zektar's expression was difficult to read. My son tells me you are a medic, that you treated Vraxian wounded without hesitation, that you risked yourself in the damaged section to save our crew. Yes, sir, Daniel said. Why? Zektar demanded. We are your enemies. We have killed billions of your people. Why would you save us? Daniel thought about how to answer. He looked at Sira, standing next to her mother. He looked at the Vraxian crew members on the bridge, all watching him. Because you are people, Daniel said finally. You have families, loved ones, dreams, just like humans do. The war has made us enemies, but that does not mean we have to be monsters. Zektar was silent for a long time. You claim humanity is not dangerous, but I have seen your combat records. I know what humans are capable of in battle. Being capable of violence is not the same as being violent by nature, Daniel replied. Humans can fight. We can be fierce when we need to be. But we would rather not. We would rather build than destroy. Create, then kill. Make friends, then enemies. Words, Zektar said. Easy to say. Then look at actions, Daniel said. He gestured to Sira. I saved your commander's daughter when I could have killed her. I helped your crew when I could have refused. Your own son is alive because I chose to protect him instead of letting him die. Those are not the actions of a species that deserves extinction. Admiral Zektar looked at his son. The young lieutenant nodded slowly. I will escort you to the council station. Zektar said finally. I will not attack again. But I make no promises about what I will say when we arrive. The transmission ended. Kaelira let out a breath she had been holding. That is the best we could hope for, she said. Zektar is the faction leader. If he is willing to hear us out, others might follow. The journey to the council station took 2 days. During that time, Daniel stayed on the Crimson Dawn. He spent time with Sarah, teaching her simple English words. He worked in the medical bay, continuing to share knowledge with the Vraxian medics. He helped with repairs where his smaller size was useful. The crew began treating him differently. They nodded when he passed. They shared their food with him. They asked him questions about Earth and human culture. Slowly, understanding grew. On the second day, they arrived at the council station. It was enormous, bigger than any structure Daniel had ever seen. Ships from hundreds of species docked there. The station itself looked like a city floating in space. This is where we make our stand, Kaelira said. She stood with Daniel on the observation deck, watching the station grow closer. In a few hours, we will enter the council chambers. I will present my evidence. You will tell your story, and the galaxy will decide if humanity lives or dies. Daniel looked at the station. Somewhere in there, Earth's delegation was waiting, desperate, hoping for a miracle. Are you ready? Kaelira asked. Daniel thought about Lisa, about all the people who had died in this war, about Sarah and the future she represented, about the choice he made 6 months ago to save a child instead of following orders. Yes, he said. Kaelira placed her hand on his shoulder. It was a gesture of respect and friendship. Whatever happens in there, know that you have already changed hearts. My crew sees you differently now. They see humans differently. That matters. Let us hope the council sees it too, Daniel said. The Crimson Dawn docked at the station. Daniel, Kaelira, and Sira walked toward the council chambers together. Ahead of them waited the assembled representatives of a galaxy. Behind them, 2 fleets watched and waited. The doors to the great chamber opened. It was time to fight for humanity's survival, with nothing but truth and hope. The council chamber was larger than anything Daniel had imagined. The ceiling stretched up so high he could barely see it. Hundreds of seats arranged in curved rows held delegates from species across the galaxy. Some were humanoid. Others were completely alien. With forms that defied easy description, Daniel walked between Kaelira and Sarah, trying not to show his fear. Every eye in the chamber was on them. He saw the human delegation in a small section to the left. They looked exhausted and desperate. One of them, an older woman with gray hair, gave him a small nod of encouragement. In the center of the chamber was a raised platform. Above it, a holographic display floated in the air, ready to show evidence and testimony. At the highest point sat the council speaker, a being from a species Daniel did not recognize. Its skin shimmered like oil on water. Commander Kaelira of the Vraxian First Fleet, the speaker said. Its voice somehow translated directly into Daniel's mind. You have requested an emergency session to present new evidence regarding the conflict with humanity. The Council recognizes you. Speak. Kaelira stepped forward. She stood straight and proud, her hand over her heart in salute. Honored Council members, I come before you to reveal a grave injustice. The war with humanity was started under false pretenses. What we told you about human aggression was a lie. The chamber erupted in noise. Delegates shouted questions. Some demanded she be removed. Others called for order. The speaker raised one appendage. Silence fell. These are serious accusations, Commander. You understand that bearing false witness before this council carries severe consequences. I do, Kaelira said. I am prepared to face those consequences. But first, I ask that you see the evidence. She activated the holographic display. Sensor logs appeared, showing the destruction of the Vraxian science vessel near Colony 7. But these logs were different from the ones the Council had seen before. This is the unaltered sensor data from the science vessel, Kaelira explained. You will see that the weapon signature matches Vraxian military hardware, not human technology. The vessel was destroyed by our own fleet to create a justification for war. A delegate from a crystalline species stood. We saw video evidence of human fighters attacking the vessel. You saw fabricated evidence, Kaelira said. She showed communications logs next. Here, you will find encrypted messages between Admiral Zektar and other faction leaders, planning the false flag operation. This is outrageous, a Vraxian delegate shouted, standing from his seat. Commander Kaelira is a traitor. She has been compromised by the humans. None of this evidence can be trusted. Can it not? A deep voice said from the entrance. Everyone turned. Admiral Zektar walked into the chamber. Behind him came Lieutenant Vorek and several other high-ranking Vraxian officers. They moved to stand beside Kaelira. Admiral Zektar, the speaker said, surprise clear even in the mental translation. We did not expect you to attend this session. I lead the faction that initiated this war, Zektar said bluntly. I believed humanity was too dangerous to allow to exist. I helped plan the operation at Colony 7. Everything Commander Kaelira says is true. The chamber went completely silent. Zektar continued. I spent 40 years building the case against humanity. I studied their history, their wars, their capacity for violence. I convinced myself and others that they would eventually destroy us if we did not strike first. He looked at Daniel. Then I met one of them. A human who saved my son's life during a battle. A human who risked himself to save Vraxian crew members he had no obligation to help. A human who showed mercy and compassion when he had every reason to hate us. Zektar turned back to the council. I was wrong. The faction was wrong. Humanity is not the threat we claimed. We have committed genocide based on fear and lies. That ends today. The chamber erupted again. This time the speaker let it continue for several moments before calling for order. If what you say is true, the speaker said carefully, then this council has authorized the destruction of an innocent species. The implications are severe. The implications are billions dead, Kaelira said. Billions of humans killed for crimes they did not commit. Entire worlds sterilized. Children orphaned. All because we were afraid. She gestured to Sira. The little girl stepped forward, holding tight to her pendant. This is my daughter, Sira. 6 months ago, her ship was destroyed during the battle at Kepler Station. She was alone in a damaged escape pod, injured and dying. Kaelira activated new footage. The holographic display showed the inside of an escape pod. Daniel saw himself pulling the pod aboard the Horizon. He saw himself treating Sira's wounds, despite orders to destroy the pod. He saw the child crying for her mother. The footage came from the pod's internal recorder. Every moment was captured. The council watched in silence as Daniel worked to save an enemy child. This human is Lieutenant Daniel Carter, Kaelira said. He disobeyed direct orders to save my daughter. He risked his career, possibly his life, to protect a child of the species that had killed his own sister. She looked at Daniel. Would you like to speak, Lieutenant Carter? Daniel had not expected this. He stepped forward nervously. He was just a medic, not a diplomat. But he had to try. Honored Counsel, he began, his voice shaking slightly. I am not a politician or a leader. I am a combat medic. My job is to save lives. When I found that escape pod, I scanned it and saw a small life sign. I did not think about politics or the war. I just thought about a child who needed help. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Humans have a saying, we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. The Council judged humanity by our worst moments, by our capacity for violence, by our mistakes, but you did not see our intentions. You did not see our capacity for compassion. Daniel looked around at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. Yes, humans can fight. We have fought wars among ourselves. We have made terrible mistakes. But we have also built beautiful things. We create art and music. We explore and learn. We protect the weak and help the helpless. He gestured to the holographic display, still showing the moment he saved Sarah. When I saw that child, I did not see a Vraxian. I saw a scared little girl who was hurt and alone. How could I let her die? What kind of person would I be if I turned away from someone who needed help? A delegate from an insectoid species stood. Your actions were admirable, but they were individual. How do we know your species as a whole shares these values? Because Daniel Carter is not unique among humans, Kaelira said. During our journey here, he saved 17 more Vraxian lives during a battle. He worked in our medical bay, teaching our medics new techniques. He risked himself to repair damaged sections of my ship. And he did all of this while we were still officially at war. Lieutenant Vorek stepped forward. I am one of the Vraxians he saved. This human threw himself over my body to protect me from an explosion. He was injured doing it, but his first concern was for me, for his enemy. Other Vraxian officers began speaking, one after another. Each shared stories of Daniel's compassion and bravery. The council listened, and Daniel felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. These are stories of one human, another delegate said. What about the billions of others? The gray-haired woman from Earth's delegation stood. May I speak, honored council? The speaker nodded. I am Ambassador Patricia Hughes, Earth's representative. I have testimony from human survivors of Vraxian attacks. Testimony about humans who sheltered wounded Vraxians instead of killing them. About human medical teams who treated injured aliens alongside their own people. About human ships that rescued Vraxian escape pods, even while being fired upon. She activated her own display. Dozens of reports appeared. These are documented incidents. Each one shows humans choosing mercy over vengeance. We are not perfect. We have made mistakes, but we are not the monsters you were told we are. Syrah had been quiet this whole time, standing beside her mother. Now she tugged on Kaelira's hand and whispered something. Kaelira smiled sadly. My daughter wishes to speak. The speaker looked surprised. She is very young. She is the reason we are here. Kaelira said. I think she has earned the right. The speaker nodded. A device was brought to Sarah, allowing her to speak in council common language. She stepped forward, small and brave. My name is Sarah, she said, her voice high and clear. I was very scared when my ship exploded. I was alone and hurt. Then the kind human found me. She looked at Daniel. He was gentle. He fixed my shoulder. He gave me water. He stayed with me even though others told him not to. He called me Shalketh. It means the kind one. But he is the kind one. Tears ran down her scaled cheeks. My mother says humans are dangerous. But Daniel is not dangerous. He saved me. Why would dangerous people save children? The innocence in her voice cut through all the political maneuvering. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The speaker was quiet for a long time. This council must deliberate. We will vote on whether to halt military operations against humanity and open a full investigation into the war's origins. The voting process took hours. Delegates argued among themselves. Some wanted to continue the extermination. They said one act of kindness did not erase humanity's potential threat. Others called for mercy. They pointed to the evidence of conspiracy and fabricated justification. Daniel sat with Sarah and Kaelira, waiting. The human delegation prayed. The Vraxian officers stood at attention. The galaxy held its breath. Finally, the speaker returned to the central platform. The council has reached a decision. By a vote of 68 in favor, 32 opposed, we hereby order the immediate cessation of all military operations against humanity. The human delegation erupted in tears and cheers. Daniel felt his legs go weak with relief. Furthermore, the speaker continued, we grant humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Pending a full investigation into the conflict's origins, Admiral Zektar and other faction leaders will face trial for war crimes. Commander Kaelira is hereby appointed as the Vraxian ambassador to humanity to help facilitate peace between our species. Kaelira placed her hand over her heart in salute. I accept this responsibility with honor. The speaker looked at Daniel. Lieutenant Daniel Carter, your actions have prevented further bloodshed and revealed a great injustice. The Council recognizes your courage and compassion. You are granted honorary citizenship in the galactic community, and Earth's forces are ordered to restore your rank and commendations. Daniel did not know what to say. He just nodded, overwhelmed. The session ended. Delegates filed out, already discussing the implications. The human delegation rushed to Daniel, thanking him, crying with relief. Ambassador Hughes hugged him tightly. You saved us all, she whispered. 3 months later, Daniel stood in a park on Earth. Real grass grew beneath his feet. Real trees swayed in the wind. The sky was blue and perfect. Beside him stood Kaelira and Sarah. The young Vraxian girl was seeing Earth for the first time. Her eyes were wide with wonder as she watched birds fly overhead. It is beautiful, Kaelira said quietly. I understand now why you fight so hard to protect it. Human children played nearby. When they saw Sarah, they paused. Then one brave little boy walked over and offered her a flower. Sarah took it carefully, smiling. Soon, all the children were playing together. Language barriers meant nothing to them. They laughed and ran. Human and Vraxian side by side. The peace will be difficult, Kaelira said. Many on both sides still harbor anger. The rebuilding will take years, but it is possible, Daniel said. Because people like you chose truth over loyalty. Because people like Zektar chose to admit they were wrong. Because a little girl reminded everyone that kindness matters. Kaelira looked at her daughter. She asks about you often. She wants to visit Earth regularly. I think she has decided humans are her friends. She is welcome anytime, Daniel said. They watched the children play as the sun began to set. Other alien species had started sending delegations to Earth, curious about the humans who showed mercy in the midst of war. The galaxy was changing. Humanity had been given a second chance, not through military might, but through simple compassion. One soldier choosing to save one child had created ripples that spread across civilizations. What will you do now? Kaelira asked. Go back to being a medic, Daniel said. Help people. Maybe train others to do the same. What about you? Build bridges, Kaelira said. Help our peoples understand each other. Make sure this never happens again. Sarah ran back to them, her hands full of flowers the human children had given her. She offered one to Daniel, with a bright smile. Daniel took the flower and knelt down to her level. Thank you, Sarah. She hugged him, then said in careful English, Thank you, Shalketh. Thank you for saving me. You saved me too, Daniel said softly. You saved all of us. As the sun set over Earth, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Daniel thought about the choice he had made 6 months ago. A choice that could have cost him everything. A choice that ended up changing the galaxy. He had simply chosen to be kind when no one was watching. Sometimes, that is all it takes. Above them, the stars came out one by one. Each star represented worlds and civilizations, species and cultures. And now, for the first time, humanity had a place among them. Not as conquerors, not as threats, but as friends and equals, proven worthy through compassion and courage. The war was over. The healing had begun. And it all started because one human refused to let a child die alone. That was humanity's true strength, not weapons or ships or technology. It was the simple choice to show mercy when it would have been easier to show hate. And that choice had saved billions of lives. Sira took both Daniel's and Kaelira's hands as they walked through the park. Human and Vraxian, once enemies, now family. The children followed behind them, playing together as if they had always been friends. This was the future. This was what they had fought for, and it was beautiful.